How's it going, fantasy folks? Yo, what up? Hey, Taylor. It's Derek. Derek. Hey, Taylor. How's it going?
I don't even know how to respect.
No,
What's up, man? How you been?
we're back with another episode of Fantasy Flyer, the somewhat infrequent Tuesday episode now. I think that's the truth of the matter is that there's only so many days of the week, and we never find time to have it on the same night except for Friday. And the last Friday didn't work out either.
Yeah,
So, maybe we'll get it together again for this Friday. Who knows? We'll see. Didn't work for you last Friday. I think the Friday before, none of us felt well. Or maybe that's last
right.
Tuesday. I don't know. It's been rough. But we are back to talk about some awards because we're 1/3 of the way through the season. We're through week 6. I think there's been 6 teams on bye, which is a little under 1/5 of the league. And if I may do like a little bit of math, that's about a third. So we're gonna do the 1/3 of the
Easy
year
there.
awards
Don't
with
hurt
the
yourself.
I know it was kind of tough. It was a little bit tough. Not the toughest, but my phone is acting up. There it goes. Now it's actually providing me information, which is important. Okay, so we're gonna talk about the 1/3 awards. Some of the awards. If I sent any of these to the team, they would just throw them away. So we're just gonna give them to him here. Most underrated team, most disappointing team. Notice those are different. Highest stock jump, largest stock fall, best team, and then we're gonna start talking on a little bit more on the fantasy side, talking about rest of the year, some rookies, fantasy players we'd like to acquire. It's gonna be absolutely loads of fun. So we're gonna start off with our most underrated team. Taylor, would you start us off with our most underrated team?
That I can do. It is the Houston Texans.
You won. They look very good.
They do.
So I'm intrigued. They have already have as many wins this year as they did last year, which is
Yeah, I
I mean
mean,
that's sad.
Stroud seems like the real deal. He's definitely pushing this team along in the right direction.
He's can we really fully say he's better than Bryce Young or should we wait? Because in my opinion, we have to wait.
I
Um
agree. I mean, there was am I gonna get this backwards? No, I'm not. Okay, so I was gonna say there was obviously the hesitation with Young in terms of his height. And I don't want to say that's what's happening right now because the Panthers are a little hurting in terms of weapons. I mean, Sanders a fine player. Mingo's still young. Thielen's obviously going off, but
he's having
Thielen's
a great year.
also what, 34,
30
35?
33, about to be 34.
Okay. Sanders has been hurt. Like, if you were to put, but I guess I say this, and then you think about Stroud. Is Stroud in that much of a different situation? Maybe not. So,
It, he's not, but it's important to note that Stroud is so I would call Damian Pierce a and Devin Singletary apparently. I would call them a little bit of a better 1-2 punch than Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard. But as far as wide receivers go, there's the experienced vet there, Robert Woods for Stroud, Adam Thielen for Bryce Young. I give the tight end to Houston, Dalton Schultz. I
mm,
would take him over Hayden Hurst. And as far as a wide receiver two at that point, or really the wide receiver one, uh, Nico Collins has been explosive, big, deep play threat. And then you look at the rookies that came on, and we're kind of talking about Tank Dell versus Jonathan Mingo, and Jonathan Mingo has been a no-show so far this year.
yeah.
So the players around CJ Stroud are helping him look good, and that's fine. That's half of, it's a team sport. It's not an individual sport. So that's how that works. That's fine. But in my opinion, that helps CJ Stroud look a lot better. Right now, Houston is trying to finish. This is loading. I don't know why this computer is loading so slow all of a sudden. They're 14th in points per game. They are 19th in touchdowns per game. However, defensively, they're pretty. Actually, they're a little worse than I thought. Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. They're number 1 in giveaways a game, though. They don't turn the ball over. Well, they don't turn the ball over. Stroud didn't have his first interception until this past week before. So, and then I don't think Pierce has any. He might have one fumble. So they're not giving the ball away. They're punting it or getting rid of it as much as possible.
Yeah.
5.3 yards per game
was Stroud's first interception.
Yep, there we go. They're 5th in yards per pass, 7.2. Yeah, interception percentage 0.47%, which is number 1 in the league. So they're taking care of the football, which is that's rule number 1, because you're not going to do. And their defense has been underrated too. Opponent points per play is 0.289 points per play, which is 9th in the league. They're only allowing 18.8 points per game, also 9th in the league, because that's how that works. Opponent red zone scoring 50%. So when they're in the red zone, they're 50-50, which is 12th in the league, believe it or not. So they're doing the right things on both sides of the ball. The defense hasn't been entirely healthy either.
Right.
Christian Harris, who was great last year, has not been doing very well this year. Jalen Petrie missed a couple games. Jimmy Ward has been less effective than you would expect in the secondary. So he could be a little bit better. Jonathan Greenard has been actually pretty solid. I shouldn't say he's been underwhelming. He's been doing pretty good on the defensive line. But all in all, I'm extremely surprised with the Texans. I had them for 6 wins going into this year, and they're probably going to get to 7 or 8 now, which doesn't sound like a huge jump, but it's important to note because this team, this division isn't set. That's the impressive thing here, is that the Jacksonville Jaguars, despite how loaded that offense is, they're not running away with anything. They actually lost to the Texans in week 3 or 4. So huge shout out to the Houston Texans and to D'Amico Ryans, who took over that team and has made a huge impact. So going from a team that has a huge thumbs up to a team that is a huge thumbs down, I don't think that this is even a surprise for anybody. But it is the Minnesota Vikings. We'll just let that soak in for a moment. Okay. It doesn't get better when you lose your number 1 wide receiver in fantasy and in football. So It doesn't sound like this is going to be an easy trek for them going forward. What is your opinion of this Vikings team and where can they be better? Because I have some really, really good theories.
Their defense they struggled last season. I thought the beginning of this season it was better,
looking positive.
Looking positive, but it doesn't seem to be the case. They lost to the Bucks in game 1. I guess that's a credit to that team and Mayfield actually playing decently, but last season, and actually this is a good point. Last season they had a lot of close games and they won them. This season they are losing those games. So, progression, what have you. They don't have Dalvin Cook. I think that's a huge factor. Madison is not Dalvin Cook. He's an okay running back, but he's not stepping up the way we thought.
You're a loser. Are you feeling sorry for yourself? Well, you should be.
Here we go. That's Alexander Madison.
Cousins has always been a passable bottom level, bottom top 12 quarterback, I guess is what I am trying to say. Someone who might get drafted
to the top 12.
Yes, exactly. Someone who might be in someone's lineup. Anyways, point being, he is throwing the ball a ton, and for fantasy, he's great. But as a NFL quarterback, I would say he's still the mediocre Kirk Cousins we're used to, and he is at times the reason they are unfortunately losing some of these games.
Yeah.
It's a huge problem.
It really kind of is. Like, he's not going to waive his no trade clause. I don't think, like, so we talk about these other teams. We talk about Dallas and how Dak is never going to win them a Super Bowl, which I've now kind of swallowed that pill. I'm okay with that because I kept fighting it for years and years. And there's just comes a time where you got to go, this guy is not going to do it, no matter who you put around him. Is Kirk Cousins any different? And like, they're not the same quarterback. They have different, and what Dak in Minnesota or Kirk in Dallas, would it be? No, it's not. He's not the guy. He's not the guy. And Justin Jefferson gets a lot of credit for helping that offense. And I think a lot of it belongs to Kirk Cousins too, because he can't catch what is thrown in the right spot. Right. But Justin Jefferson isn't the field general.
Yeah.
He doesn't touch the ball every play. He only touches them most of them. So I think that it starts with Kirk Cousins. And if Dallas is crossing this bridge, Chicago is back on this bridge 3 or 4 years later with Justin Fields. I don't want to speak too early for either Trevor Lawrence or Justin Herbert because they are still incredibly young and they have a couple more years before I put them at that cross in the road, that fork in the road, that bridge. But there are some teams that they're reaching that point, and I think Minnesota's one of them. Justin Jefferson needs to be. I've swallowed the possibility. Note how I've worded that he may not play again this year because he's due for a contract and he's freaking earned it. But I think to a certain extent, behind closed doors, he is going to look at this front office, or he's going to sit down with this front office and go, "What are you going to do differently?"
Right.
Because I like money, I also like winning, and then as much as being the number one wide receiver on the football field year in and year out is great, it means nothing if I can't get past the divisional round. The defense is not. It's just they're 20th in takeaways. They are 29th in turnover margin. They're a plus 1.2. So you're giving up 1 to 2 more turnovers per game, which is how you lose so many games. You lose the turnover battle. They're 32nd in opponent time of possession. So they're just not holding the ball. Or they're getting through drives I won't say too quickly, but it matters to be 32nd. 56% of their games, they don't have the football. It's just too much.
Yeah.
Opponent, where is it? Opponent completion percentage is 75%.
Damn.
75% opponent completion percentage. That's disgusting. They're running the ball 30% of the time. They're passing at 70, which is a league worst by 6% through 6 weeks. They don't have a run game. That's the first problem. They don't have an offensive line. Well, they do have an offensive line. It's just it's getting beat up.
Right.
Because the defense knows what they're going to do. And then the defense honestly is the biggest. You can kind of fiddle with the offense when your defense can hold things. When your defense can't stop a runny nose, we have a problem. And they're not doing that either. So there's a lot of fixes that have to happen. It's not happening this year. It looks like they're getting ready for teardown. They're willing to ship Harrison Smith, Danielle Hunter. I would not be surprised if they start trading just for some standard 3rd and 4th round picks. I forget there's somebody else. Jordan Hicks might be on the block. I think I might have heard that recently. It's got to get restarted. And here's the problem is that someone is going to come along and go, this is Brian Flores' fault. It's not. He was handed melted Legos to try and build a Star Wars ship at a Toys R Us. It doesn't work. My biggest thing for them would be defense. Somehow the opponent points per game is only 22.5, which is 21st in the league right now. That's outstanding compared to what I would expect. But their offense isn't even amazing all in and of itself. You know that they're 27th in the league on 3rd down conversions. You know how that time of possession gets really high?
Yeah.
when you can't convert on third down.
Right.
So despite all that, they can't do that. And Kirk Cousins is an afterthought compared to the defense, in my opinion, but it's all got to get fixed for Minnesota. For a team that went 13-4, and like you said, they won a lot of those close games, and we said that, wow, this, the other side of the coin, and this team looks horrible.
Right.
Oh, no, damn. No shit. Really? Here we are. So, and being that Vikings is like my second team behind the Cowboys, very small. It's not impressive. So I hope they sign Justin Jefferson and they start rebuilding that defense like ASAP.
Real quick, if
But
nothing else, I hope people come here just for your analogies. The melting Legos.
that's it's Johnny on the spot there. It's the truth. Next we're going to the highest stock jump. I think this one's an easy one, and I didn't want to put rookies into any of these. I wanted to save this for the rookie watch later. This has to be Puka Nacua. We've seen players fluctuate. Injuries aside, most of them reasonably, right? Like, if you're talking fantasy prices, nobody's really tanked from where they were at the beginning of the year. But Puka Nacua was undrafted in a lot of, he was undrafted completely in probably 95% of redraft leagues.
Mhm.
And then for our dynasty league, he was a 4th rounder, probably should have went a 5th rounder. And
That's where I was hoping to snag him.
right. And he was second. He's probably solid upper second to lower first value right now because he has just exploded. He's done stuff with a team that I didn't expect to have 5 wins on the year. They already have 3. So points to the Rams, Sean McVay. But he's part of the reason because he was Cooper Kupp when there wasn't a Cooper Kupp.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent point.
I didn't know. Sorry, I didn't know if you had more.
No, that was he's been filling in the blanks. I don't know what else. What else is there to think? Is there to say?
He's played so well that they got rid of their quote unquote number 2 wide receiver Van Jefferson.
That was the number 2.
Yeah. Snap percentage wise and yeah. They didn't have anybody besides Cooper Kupp, and now they do. And even when Cooper Kupp came back, other than last week, Puka's been fine.
He's even with Cooper, he's not going to be that bad. 55 snaps, 7 targets, caught 4 of them for 26. I get that in week 6 against Arizona, but even week 5 against Philly, 7 for 71 with a touchdown. He's got this. What are his snaps looking like here anyway? See, he's still in the 90s as he has been. Like if he can go out there, he's going to be out there. And Cooper Kupp's out there, and now it's just Tutu Atwell, who is it's good they're not splitting. I would have taken Tutu over Van too, just for the record. But yeah, that is it's huge for Puka. At this point, you're probably not going to buy him. If we're talking fantasy, you're not buying him anywhere near you were. Week 2, you probably would have said, I can't give up a second for this guy.
Right.
Or week 3, I can't give up a 2nd rounder for this guy. And now you're like, I have to give up a 1st for this guy.
Yeah.
So, excellent value on the stock jump there. And I'll roll this into somebody. We just talked about the Texans. Honorable mention here, Nico Collins, who's come out of the gate absolutely swinging himself. I'm going to look up his stats real quick. I'm bouncing back and forth between pages because the Texans need to be notified. 73% snaps week 6, 88 in week 5. Collins 4 for 80 week 6, 3 for 39 week 5. A little bit of a stinker there, but week 4 against Pittsburgh, 7 catches, 168 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's at 140 or more yards twice already this year. He does have all 3 of his touchdowns in those 2 games though, so he's a bit of a boomer bust type of guy. But for somebody who probably was again on waiver wires, both of these guys were missed opportunities for a lot of folks, and I'm ashamed I'm one of them.
Yeah. Nico's been 4 out of 6 games. He's had at least 80 yards. And then to your point, his snap percentage has been I don't know, other than 1 week, it's been at least 66%. It's been up, it's basically been averaging around 70%. Yeah, he's definitely thriving with Shroud, and it's awesome to see. He's somebody that I'm trying to remember if he was a 3rd round pick.
He was. I just looked
Okay.
at it. Third round pick 89.
Yeah, he's somebody that I, you know, was interested in, and he never really quite did anything. And what, this is his 3rd year?
I believe so.
Yeah, so usually by the 3rd year, I mean, it's not the same across the board, but like if they don't do anything the first 2 years, you're kind of not interested in them. But he wasn't in the best situation, so it's nice to see that he is what we thought he was. If I mean, at least for me, he is what I thought he was.
Yeah. And it helps. He's contributing. Houston's 9th in yards per game, 347.3 yards per game. They have more yards per game than Minnesota, Jacksonville, Dallas. Some pretty hefty teams there that Houston has more yards than. And
I think on Sunday when I was watching some of the game, they called out the fact that they have one of the like highest 3rd down percent like conversion rates.
do they?
I wish I had the stat in front of me, but I believe
I do, and it's fairly good. 6th in the league, 44.32%.
Yeah, that was kind
Philadelphia.
of surprising.
Listen to the teams in front of them though. Philadelphia, Buffalo, Kansas City, Dallas, Baltimore. They have a better 3rd down percentage, completion percentage than Miami, San Francisco, Detroit, Tampa. They're doing like D'Amico Ryans has made this big over, but the players are doing it too. So shouts out to Puka and Nico. And of course, there's always the other side of the coin.
Can I throw we don't have to talk about it. I'm gonna throw Kyron Williams in there.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not gonna hate that. He has had 2 back-to-back ginormous weeks. And I think that, having Puka and Kyron come alive on this Rams team have been their savior.
Yeah.
For this season, to be completely honest. But Kyron has been great. Sucks he's gonna be out this week due to the sprained ankle. At least he isn't gonna hit IR like Ronnie Rivers will. Forgotten greaser from the 70s, Ronnie Rivers. Hey Ronnie. Largest stock fall. We have to talk about the not so goods. I think this one's relatively easy. When you think about the entire fantasy landscape, and I want you to start off with the little chat here, Taylor. Talk to us about the very, very, very sad Najee Harris.
I mean, Warren has been sort of waiting in the background here. I don't know. I didn't like all the hype around Harris to begin with. His first, when he was drafted and whatnot. It was always volume for him. And now with Warren in the mix, he's not getting that volume. If he's a good NFL player, sure, but from a fantasy perspective, he's just not getting it done. I mean, he's only getting 50% of the snap shares on average, so Warren is a factor. And I might honestly say Warren's a little more explosive. So like Warren after 2 years in the system, has he been there just as long as Harris? One year less?
At least, yeah, 2. I think this is Harris has been there 3, if I'm not mistaken. I could have that wrong. Don't quote me.
Yeah, but anyways, Warren has made a role for himself, and it's eating into Harris's mojo, but no, it's eating into his volume, which was like the biggest thing that was his saving grace the first 2 seasons.
Yeah. Jalen Warren, 34 carries, Najee with 63. I'm trying to find just overall. That's the ranks, team stats. I'm clicking through this because it's a little difficult to check here on my side.
Yeah,
they are so they're the Pittsburgh offense is really the problem.
Yeah.
Like it really, like, part of this goes back, part of it, to Matt Canada. And it's man, it's just bad. They're 30th in points per game. They have 15.8 points. They're 30th in yards per game, 268.2. They're 30th in, well, that's fourth down conversion. That's less important. They're 32nd in red zone scoring at 28.5%. Their rush play percentage is 39.6%. They're passing at 60% of the time. Nobody's getting any boost there. It's not even close to where it was last year, which I believe was 48-52. That was the split. And that might be game script, which is fair. But when the entire offense is that bad, I mean, the offensive line seems to be absolutely troubled. Kenny Pickett seems to be absolutely troubled. You get a couple good games from wide receivers, but that's part of them throwing it way more than they're passing it. They're just not.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's another thing is Warren is very much eating into Harris's receiving game. Like I would never have said that Harris was like a huge aspect in the receiving game,
Right.
but he would get like 3 to 7-ish targets last year. First year was a lot more. Now he's getting like 1 or 2 a game, and Warren's getting 6-ish on average.
The snaps are just, I mean, Warren has only had 24 less snaps than Najee through 5 weeks. Excuse me. They didn't play this past week. But the snap percentages almost mirror themselves the last 3 weeks, week 3 through week 5.
Yeah.
Man,
It's actually kind of interesting to see because Tomlin was like one of the last holdouts on the whole like bell cow running back, and now he's kind of going with the rest of the league and having 2.
yeah, because Najee he's suffered. He went from what was supposed to be a clear RB, top end RB2, RB1, and I don't think you can consider him a flex option, a dependable flex option. It's matchup based for sure. Pittsburgh itself, I'm sorry, but it's a sad day for Najee Harris. There it is. Honorable mention. I wrote this before this past weekend's game, and I left it in here. And I put Joe Burrow here, but I think I'm going to take Joe Burrow out because he's had 2 good games. It looks like he's rebounding. So my honorable mention is not going to be Joe Burrow. Off the top of your head, is there anybody who you might want to fill in, or should we just move on?
Yeah, nobody's coming to mind immediately.
Geno Smith. Geno Smith. There's an honorable mention for you. We'll play the team that just played the Bengals. Geno Smith. That's what we'll roll with that one. The team, like the fantasy points are fine. Ken Walker has been doing great. Geno Smith hasn't really. It hasn't been great. It just hasn't been great. That's all I really got. As you can tell, I wasn't prepared for that one because I left Joe Burrow in. Best team. I think I'm sticking with the 49ers here, and I'm okay if you counter this with somebody else. The loss to the Browns isn't on them so much as it is on Jake Moody, who missed the kick. But the Browns are a good defense, and I'm going with the 49ers. They look very stacked. CMC, even if he misses this Monday's game, it's against the Vikings. So Brock Purdy just has to throw it 30 yards, and the Vikings will let them catch it because we covered that already. But I'm all about it. I'm all about the 49ers this year. They beat up on my Cowboys.
Yeah.
They weren't going to go undefeated.
No.
So if I had to come somewhere, at least it was here, and they didn't lose to the Patriots.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I would be happy about that.
You wouldn't be able to hold your head at all. That'd be the worst thing.
No, I don't know that I have a counter. I guess I kind of want to say Miami, but at the same time, I'm not going to say that like Miami's any better than the Eagles, who I would throw up there, or any better than the Chiefs. Like Miami and the Chiefs and the Eagles, I would kind of put on the same plane as like one tier behind the 49ers. So yeah, I'm in agreement there.
So you're about to find out in the next 3 weeks
Yeah,
whether the Dolphins are better than the Chiefs or Eagles, because they play the Eagles this week, and then in week 9 they play the Chiefs.
well, hot
So,
damn. I mean,
there you
the
go.
Dolphins are playing incredibly, and they're just firing on all cylinders. So
They have I mean, there's some good games that could be postseason games here that are just like Dolphins Eagles this Sunday Night Football, Dolphins Chiefs, which is in Germany.
oh, nice.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. They play the Cowboys later this year on Christmas Eve. And then the last game of the season is back against the Bills, which we already saw that the Bills destroyed them once. But the Dolphins do look very good. I'm interested over these next 3 weeks. The Eagles and Chiefs specifically. The Patriots are week 8. I'm less interested in that. So sorry. But Eagles and Chiefs are, I mean, these are the first 2 real games the Dolphins have had to play besides the Bills, and they
I was
kind
just
of
gonna
got slaughtered
say,
by the Bills. So that's why I
yeah,
haven't been putting the Dolphins in the top like 6 in the league yet. Is
that's
because they
fair.
haven't really played anybody difficult.
Yeah, I was just looking at their schedule and like if the Giants were playing better, maybe. Chargers Chargers are a decent-ish team, but they're letting up a lot of offensive, yardage, points, everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, Chargers, Patriots, Broncos, Giants, Panthers.
Yeah,
That's
there's
not.
really nothing.
Yeah, the Bills
Yeah.
are really the only test they've had so far. That's fair.
Real quick, a fantasy player that we would each like to acquire for the rest of this season. For me, it's probably, I mean, it depends on what the price is and what you're giving up. So that's the real answer. If
Mhm.
you're a contending team, I like going after one of those mid-tier wide receivers that is bound to have Michael Pittman. Great one. Doesn't seem to be affected by no Anthony Richardson, which is nice. Um, Trying to think Nico Collins. Go get yourself some Nico Collins. From the running back position, DeAndre Swift. His schedule gets easier from here on out. Jahmyr Gibbs, which we're going to talk about a little more in a second. Those are a few that I would like to pick up. For you?
It's funny you say Nico Collins. I would have said Tank Dell as well.
Yep. That's not a bad one.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. I kind of want to say Thielen, just because nobody else on that team is
Gotcha.
doing anything.
Yep, that's a good one.
And I feel like I don't know. I kind of feel like the person who has Thielen probably needs other pieces. But anyways, I don't know that there's any data to support that. I might go after Addison with
Yep.
Jefferson out.
Especially, I think he's out rest of the season. That's a great pick.
Yeah. And then if somebody is hurting elsewhere, I would for sure go after Brees Hall with the uptick he's seen.
Yep.
I mean, the coach came right out and said it, before week 5, and we saw the change actually happen. So he put his mouth what is the saying? Where his words is, anyways.
Okay, let's see here. Toilet paper? Toilet paper?
And then the last 2 games he's played really well.
This lesson, old man.
Yeah, he's been pretty good.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of some buy cheap options that I think are going to take off. But honestly, actually, Olave
Dameon
may be a
Pierce.
buy cheap.
Dameon Pierce.
Sure.
He's not the second rounder value he was for Dynasty. You could probably get him for a wide receiver 3 or a flex option, especially now because he's on a bye week if you're in a redraft league.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my take on Dame Pierce. Khalil Herbert, you could buy low right now.
Yep.
He's not getting, no matter how Roshan does, he's not removing himself from this. So if you need running back help, he's a good target. I can't think of any other good buy low options right now off the top of my head. There's definitely another handful. KJ Osborne.
Yeah. Stevenson, you probably missed the boat. He had 3 bad games, and then last week he actually had a decent game.
Yep.
Granted, he plays Buffalo next week, so maybe you have another opportunity after that.
Real quick, some rookies to watch. We just talked about two of them. Jahmyr Gibbs. Next at least probably 2 weeks without David Montgomery.
Mhm.
Not going to be like 80% snaps, but he will be much more involved than he has been. Craig Reynolds will be sure to see some snaps. Jordan Addison saw the uptick that we expected, his extra 4 targets, 3 targets, something like that, without Justin Jefferson. Expect that to continue. Roshan Johnson should be coming off of concussion protocol. If he's on your waiver wire still, he shouldn't be. He's going to probably see 60% of snaps. He beat out Deontay Foreman for the RB2 slot. Deontay Foreman was sent home for 5 weeks, and then Matt Eberflus had to call him back and beg for him to come and play 61% of snaps last week with the forgotten running back Darrington Evans as his backup for a week.
Yeah.
Johnson should be heavily featured this week. Matchup isn't the most stellar. Actually, no, it's the Raiders. They're not, they're mid-tier in the run against the run. But plenty of opportunity for Roshan, especially since there'll be no Fields. They're going to have to do something different. So less mobile quarterback. Michael Wilson, who is still the wide receiver 2 for Arizona. Kyler Murray. What's interesting, and the reason I bring up Michael Wilson yet again is because the boost that Michael Wilson saw after week 1, and I said keep your eye on him, and then we talked about him a little bit in week 4, and we said, all right, so he's definitely the wide receiver 2 now, and he's seeing some of these targets, and he's had touchdowns now, and he's like second on the team in targets. Well, now here comes Kyler Murray, who is approaching his return, and he's only going to become more valuable. So Michael Wilson is a trade target for many, many, many folks, I would hope. I would say by the end of the season, if Kyler comes back and can be his good self, Michael Wilson would probably be in a wide receiver 3, borderline wide receiver 2 scenario. And the last one is somebody who should not be on your waiver wire at all. He should have been picked up weeks ago, probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, but I have to note Rashee Rice. He is 4th in the league in efficiency per route run. That's crazy.
Yeah.
He's seeing a target on 20% of his routes. He's catching more than 80% of those targets. He's in the best offense in the league. Probably the best offense in the league. One of the top 3 for sure.
Mhm.
He has the best quarterback in the league. I would say he saw Sky Moore usage this past week, and it showed at 4 catches for 72 yards. Didn't catch the touchdown on Thursday night against the Broncos. In a relatively low-scoring game, though, I'll take 72 yards. Second on the team. Rashee Rice is the guy for that wide receiver core. Not the one. He's the guy. Guy could be 1, 2, or 3 because you ain't got nobody there. It's just Travis Kelce. So, real quick, we got about 60 seconds. Hot take for the rest of the year. Taylor, you want to go first? You want to go second?
I'll go second.
Okay, my hot take for the rest of the year. It's a good one. All right, hot take for the rest of the year is Ravens win the AFC North. Eagles lose 4 games. And your leading running back from the rest of the year out is Austin Eckler. No CMC. Austin Eckler. Not really
Okay.
the hottest of takes, but I'll leave it at that.
All right. You had a couple there. I don't know if I'm that prepared.
I literally looked at a corner and I thought, what are some like kind of out of bounds things?
Yeah. So I guess I'm kind of heavy on the Rams here.
That's okay.
Man, this is very hot take because I do like the 49ers, but I want to say that the Rams win the division. We'll see if that actually comes to fruition.
Oh, damn. That's a good hot take. Oh, I can add another hot take to that. Detroit has the best record in the NFC.
Ooh.
They are 5-1 right now.
They are,
along
yeah.
with 4 other teams.
I was gonna say with
so
like 4 other teams.
careful.
And then I said I was heavy on the Rams here. I'm gonna throw. So Cup missed what, 4 games? and he's already on
Like 10
pace.
seconds.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Cup finishes top 7 end of season.